Hi. Good to see you. My daughter informed me that when my illness deteriorated, my husband abandoned me in the hospital and was given a few months to live. He then sold our property and fled abroad with his lover. Fear not, I've handled all the increasing mistrust. My name is Hannah Walker. And because of my spouse Ryan's recent actions, such as arriving home later than usual, binge drinking, and acting extremely carelessly with money, I have been really concerned. Because of this, I've decided to move part of our funds to a different account to safeguard our money, as had been the case for the past few weeks. Ryan always started his day by leaving early for work and promised to return for supper. However, as the hours passed and he did not return each time I checked the clock, this was not the case. At night, my anxiety increased. When I contacted his cell phone at midnight, all I received was a voicemail. I heard the door slam open and shut. It was obvious that Ryan had come back. I asked, more concerned than angry, "Ryan, where have you been all this time?" He was drunk and stumbling over his own feet while attempting to take off his shoes. "Oh, Hannah, don't start that again," he stammered, avoiding eye contact with me. He was with some clients, important business. "No," he stammered. It was the first time Ryan had given a reason for his delay other than pressing business. I chose to exert a little more pressure. I required more specific responses. "Ryan, it's almost time for bed. Are you honestly thinking that I will accept that you have working up till now, and why do you have a feminine perfume smell?" I mentioned that I was attempting to stay composed, but that I could feel my frustration rising. In his inebriated state, Ryan scowled and then shrugged his shoulders, obviously searching for a plausible explanation. One of the clients became a touch overly enthusiastic as they celebrated a deal closure. "That's all, Han. It need not be a significant issue." Something inside me crumbled when I heard this. It was evident that Ryan was acting carelessly, not just with his time and our money, but it also appeared as though they were flagrantly deceiving me. "We need to have a serious conversation about our future and what's actually going on with you." I said this while trying to sound as firm as possible. "This can't continue like this. You're drinking too much and you're late all the time." He moved past me and toward the kitchen, most likely in search of another beverage. I confronted him after he blocked my route, saying, "Don't scratch. You can't just ignore this. Our daughter and I deserve to know the truth. You really should tell me something." Ryan groaned and turned to face the floor. After a long moment, Han remarked, "I'm having a rough time at work. The pressures are really high. Indeed, I have consumed alcohol to temporarily forget the stress, but if you give me some time, I swear I'll change." Even though Ryan slid into the living room and sank on the couch, I knew that meaningless promises wouldn't make our troubles go away, even if I wanted to trust him. I went to our study, turned on the computer, and started working on something, which for weeks I had been thinking about. After I finished, I sat in front of the dark screen thinking about the difficult steps I would have to take if the situation did not improve. I knew that protecting my daughter and myself was the most important thing, and I was determined to take whatever necessary steps to ensure a stable future, no matter how difficult. I moved a significant amount of money to a separate account as a precautionary measure. What was it about confronting Ryan's issues? One afternoon, as I was putting Ryan's belongings in order, I made a startling find. As I was emptying the pockets of his jacket to prepare it for washing, I noticed a little, sparkly thing. It was a woman's leap, delicate and delicate. A pink color that was completely unlike anything I would use was next to a loyalty card from a renowned hotel in the city, and a perfume that smelled pleasant and flowery came out of the pocket. I was intrigued by the objects on the living room table, and I couldn't help but feel nervous about it. I waited for Rand to get home, and when he did, I decided to confront him right away. "Ryan, could you explain this to me?" I asked, showing him the loyalty card and the jump, and he stopped abruptly, obviously surprised and nervous. He looked at the objects on the table, then at me, without saying anything at first. "Oh," it began hesitantly. His expression changed. Pallid and unable to look into my eyes. "Don't tell me I need an explanation since they are scratching me now. Whose jump is this? And why are you carrying this perfume and a hotel loyalty card?" My voice faltered slightly, revealing the anguish and perplexity he was experiencing. After letting off a long sigh, Ryan said to Han, "I've been seeing someone else." I know this is terrible and that I have let you down, but I'm not sure how to break the news to you." He admitted that when he looked down and Ryan's words were being spoken, everything seemed to stop, reverberated throughout the room. I felt like I had been hit in the stomach, but I forced myself to remain composed so that we could continue the conversation. When I asked how long the betrayal had been going on, he acknowledged in a low voice that it had started as something casual after work. "I'm so sorry, Han, and that justifies your actions because you thought of us and your family while you were doing all of this." My voice rose in a state of shock and suffering. "No, naturally, I didn't." I became overwhelmed by the absurdity of the situation. "I am prepared to go above and above to make apologies. I have no justifications." He eventually looked me in the eyes and whispered, "This is if I can." We talked for hours, alternating between sobs and reproaches. Ryan attempted to justify his actions by discussing his work-related stress and sense of disconnection. But nothing he said could make up for the suffering he had brought about. It was obvious that we had to address the flaws as well as his infidelity with serious measures. The only thing that was certain was that our life could not go on as before, not after what had happened. Deep in our relationship that had allowed this to happen that night, after Ryan went asleep in another room, I lay awake thinking about everything that had happened. I knew the road ahead would be difficult. We should seek professional help if we wanted any chance of recovering what we once had, or perhaps to decide if it was time to go our separate ways. Found heartbreaking proposal. I was still anxious after a lengthy conversation about his adultery, one chilly fall afternoon as the rain softly pattered on the scratchy windows as I sat in the living room. After our argument, he had been remarkably silent, lost in contemplation, when he broke down. Stillness followed by an unexpected proposal. Han. Ryan turned away from me as he spoke. "I think I have a solution. I have been thinking a lot about our financial position," and I inquired with, apprehensive because of our recent struggles and what it might imply. "Yes, I have been crunching the numbers, and I think we should think about selling the house." The air seemed to disappear from the room, and the house held many memories and feelings for my parents as well as me. Every room had a story connected to my childhood and family, and every piece of furniture had a story. "If you really want to sell the house, are you serious?" To me, the house is more than just four walls. It is a part of my family's history. Considering selling it scratches. "I know it's important to you, but look at our situation. We're drowning in debt, and this house is worth a lot of money. It could solve many of our financial problems. But it's not just a house. Every corner of this place holds memories of my parents, and Sabrina has grown up here as well. I can't believe you're willing to get rid of all that so easily. I can't believe the desperation in me." The voice was clear, and Ryan appeared to comprehend the extent of my suffering for a brief instant. "Han, please accept my sincere apologies. I hear you. Although I don't want to sell the house, I don't think there is any option. Nothing that I've looked into seems to be able to pay off what we owe. And what is it? We can make cost reductions. There are other options. I'm able to hunt for work. We can request financial assistance. We don't need to sell our house in order to resolve this. It will require a full year to escape this predicament. Selling the house might be our only chance to start over." As the prospect of losing my house seemed more apparent, tears started to stream down my face. A fresh start isn't worthwhile if it meant forgetting my past and our memories. The long pause left us both lost in our own thoughts and feelings. "Han, the last thing I want is to hurt you," I said, maybe suggesting that selling the house was a hasty decision. "This is not just about money. This is about our life, about who we are as a family." I nodded, wiping my tears, glad for his willingness to rethink. But anxiety was already ingrained in my heart since I knew the days ahead would be filled with uncertainty and tough decisions. "So quickly, let's investigate all the other options first. I promise we will do this together." We had a different talk after that, and even though Rand had promised to explore for other answers, the most concerning diagnosis was that I still feared losing my link to my past, which was clouding our future. A nurse gently said, "Mrs. Walker, please come to my office." I was sitting in the cold waiting room, nervously fiddling with the hem of my jacket, trying to prepare myself for any news without picturing how devastating the diagnosis would be. It was a Tuesday morning when I entered the office of Dr. Rivera, a chronic disease specialist, whom I had visited after feeling unusually weak and tired for weeks. I went to the modest office where Dr. Rivera instructed me by following her footsteps. I was waiting, looking serious, which made me feel even more anxious. Han, good morning. I appreciate you coming. The doctor invited me to sit in front of him as soon as he started. Greetings, doctor. I'm a little anxious about the outcome. Is there a problem? I asked, trying not to look as nervous as I actually felt. The fact that the doctor took a time to answer just made me worry more. Han, I have to let you know that you have a very dangerous condition based on a review of all the exams and tests we have completed. With caution, she continued, seriously, I've been told I have an advanced illness that could kill me in 3 months without treatment. It seemed as if the world had stopped. The doctor's words rang in my ears, but I was unable to process them completely. Months, they kept coming up again and again. While I spent months feeling a mix of fear and denial. I said aloud that although my voice was failing, the treatment is. There's something that can be done. Yes, there are treatment options available that can prolong, significantly improve your life, and in some cases result in remission. However, they are expensive and intensive treatments that we will begin as soon as possible. The thought of Sabrina, my year-old daughter, who was entirely dependent on me, made me feel terrified. Doctor, I have a daughter, Ella. What will happen to her if I can't finish the sentence? The pain was too intense. The doctor answered, it is important. Would you also think about discussing how to prepare with someone? Sabrina, perhaps she needs the help of a psychologist or counselor. Struggling to keep my cool, I nodded for this period of time, aware that I had tough choices to make. What actions would you like me to take next, doctor? We will first refer you to a specialty oncologist if necessary. He will assist you in making an informed decision and better understanding your treatment alternatives. Additionally, it's critical that you begin arranging your legal and personal issues. I'll provide you some recommendations for lawyers that can assist you with estate planning and other crucial information. As I drove back home, the words of Dr. Rivera kept repeating in my head, each one bringing me closer to Sabrina. Leaving the doctor's office, I felt as though I was in a dream that I really wanted to wake up from. How could I get my young daughter ready for life without me? How could I ensure that she would receive love and care, even without me? I sat in the living room that evening, surrounded by pictures and recollections of our time spent together. After putting Sabrina to bed, I was aware that I needed to be strong for both my daughter and myself. I was determined to fight for our future and to cherish every time we had left together, even in the face of fear and uncertainty, by sharing forged documents with her. The afternoon that I learned of Ryan's treachery unsettled me on an emotional level and made me wary of how far his. We had argued in desperation over money, and he had offered selling our property, which was both our residence and an inheritance from my parents. A few days after that trying talk, I discovered something that really startled me and caused me to doubt Ryan's integrity even more. To pass the time while Ryan was at work, I made the decision to thoroughly clean the entire house. While going through some papers in our study, I came upon a folder that I had never seen before. I was curious, so I opened it and saw documents that appeared to be from our home, but something did not look quite right. The documents appeared to be deeds and sales contracts, but they had signatures on them that should have belonged to me. When I looked more closely and saw that the signature that was meant to be mine was a fake, my heart started to race because of the obvious ramifications of this finding. That evening, I waited for Ryan to get home. When he did, I made an effort to remain composed, but my feelings of betrayal and rage nearly overwhelmed me. We must speak immediately. As soon as I entered the living room, I stated firmly, obviously, something is happening, Ryan questioned, attempting to sound casual. I held it in front of him and showed him the documents I had discovered. I'd like an explanation on this. Why is my signature on the sale documentation for our house forged? Ryan's face went completely white. He gazed at the documents as though, I hope it gets swallowed by the soil. I can describe it, albeit I stutter when I do. I'm sorry, but I was desperate and didn't know what else to do with our mounting debts. If we sold the house, we could start over somewhere smaller to sort out our finances, and you decided the best way to do that was to go behind my back and forge my signature. I interrupted, feeling that the plan to sell our house without telling me anything and forge my signature was the best course of action. My confidence in him was rapidly eroding. I didn't mean to offend you. I just assumed that I could take care of everything and explain everything to you once I got the money and our issues resolved. Ryan, in addition to being against the law, it's a betrayal. How can you expect me to trust you now that you've not only betrayed me emotionally, but also legally? Ryan attempted to approach me, perhaps in an attempt to console or calm me down, but I stopped him with a hand gesture because I needed more time to process this. The weight of the whole thing was killing me as I remarked, I don't know if I can. I don't know what we're going to do. Han, please allow me to correct this. I'll exert all necessary effort. I'm going to the therapist. I'll seek legal counsel to reverse this. Whatever is necessary. With a vow that verged on desperation. But that night, as Ryan slept on the couch, I lay awake thinking about the wreckage of a marriage that had once been built on mutual trust and love. I knew we were going to have a long and challenging path ahead of us, either together or apart, and that the choices I made going forward would determine not just my own destiny, but also our daughter Sabrina's divorce decision. The choice to initiate a divorce, it wasn't simple, but I realized there was no other option after learning of Ryan's adultery and his attempt to use forged paperwork to sell our house. Even though she was young, Sabrina was supportive of me and saw how serious the situation was. Her encouraging remarks provided me the courage to face what was ahead one afternoon following days of preparing and speaking with my attorney. Since I heard Ryan was staying at a hotel with his lover, Sabrina, and I made plans to confront him. When I arrived at the hotel, my heart was thumping with every step toward Ryan's room. My determination was growing, but so was my nervousness, even if bringing Sabrina could seem improper at this crucial time. I called, and Sabrina grasped my hand and gave me a solid squeeze, reassuring me without words that everything would be all right. After a short while, the door opened, and Ryan's look changed from one of surprise to concern upon realizing that we were standing there. Sabrina, Han, with obvious discomfort, he questioned, "What are you doing here?" "We must speak. It's crucial, Ryan," I stated forcefully. Pushing open the door, I saw a young woman who I thought to be that was Ryan's sweetheart. She gave us a startled expression. I avoided talking to her directly. I was staring at this man who said he would love and respect me. "Ryan, I can't handle this for much longer, so I came here." "Sabrina," and Ryan looked at me and then at Sabrina, his expression displaying regret. "Han, please, can we talk about this at home?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I deserve better. We deserve respect and honesty," he said, appearing apprehensive. "Not here. Don't be mean to your partner. This is over now. I've got the divorce papers. Please sign them." I mentioned extending legal. "There's no way we can make things right, Han." He made one last request in his voice. "I have tried to scratch. I have tried to forgive you, and I need to think about our daughters and my well-being. After everything that has happened, I can't take it anymore." Sabrina spoke in silence up until that point, sounding surprisingly mature for her age. "I am here as well to let you know that Mom has my undying support. We were deeply saddened by what you did, and I believe it's best for Mom and me to go forward. Proceed without you." Ryan's expression briefly conveyed a deep melancholy before, with quivering hands, he opened the envelope and started signing the documents. He said, "I'm sorry for everything," as he signed the papers, then gave them back to my attorney, who had been waiting outside the room. Ryan had remained silent, and his partner had gone to the restroom, obviously uncomfortable. Ryan and our many years of strained marriage were left behind when Sabrina and I departed the hotel. Despite the chilly outdoors air, I felt a burden being removed off my shoulders when Sabrina gave me a hug. I sensed the end of a trying phase in our life, as well as the start of something fresh and optimistic. Even though we knew the days ahead would not be simple, we would face them as a cohesive family. With Sabrina, my courageous daughter, a little hope sprang out of the emotional storm and mayhem that had been our life these past few months, even though it was smaller now and awaiting surgery. She was young, but she had taken very assiduously the task of resolving my grave medical condition. Sabrina spent hours researching, writing emails, and making calls on the computer before she eventually came to me one day with news that would completely transform my life. "Mom." With cautious hope in her voice, Sabrina informed me she had discovered a doctor in France who specialized in your ailment and had performed many successful procedures. She felt that he could assist. Her initiative shocked me, and I was proud to see how much there had been. Grown at these trying times, Sabrina, how did you find it? Really? We decided it was time to give Dr. Lefebvre a call and speak with him directly, I asked, feeling both hopeful and nervous. I have been talking to several online groups of people who deal with the same thing as you, and everyone highly recommends this doctor. His name is Dr. Lefebvre, and he works in one of the best hospitals in Paris. One afternoon, Sabrina set everything up, and we all gathered in front of the computer to have a video conference with him. Hey, I'm Dr. Lefebvre. Dr. Lefebvre was very professional and attentive. He explained to us in detail the procedure, the risks involved, and what we could expect in terms of recovery. Mrs. Walker said, I understand that you are interested in discussing treatment options for you. The doctor said in a clear and calm French accent, Yes, doctor. I have heard excellent things about your work, and I was wondering if you could help me. Although the procedure I suggest is complex, I have expertise in. In situations like yours, it's critical to take swift action considering your health. Are you ready for your trip to France? I glanced at Sabrina when she asked. Although it was unsettling to consider going abroad for surgery, we knew it was the wisest course of action. Yes, I felt, we are ready and will take the appropriate action. With support, Sabrina's hand grasped mine. The week following was filled with hectic preparations. Sabrina was in charge of planning the trip specifics while I continued to undergo tests and, fortunately, our community rallied around us to provide support through the planning of fundraisers and encouraging letters. At last, the day of the journey arrived with hearts full of hope and suitcases prepared. I was nervous on the long journey to the airport with Sabrina, but she didn't stop to reassure me that I would be all right, Mom. After we arrived in Paris, we went straight to the hospital where the doctor said, Dr. Lefebvre is going to take care of you. We're doing the right thing. Sabrina gave me this assurance while I tried to quiet my own fears. The day before the surgery, Sabrina stayed by my side, talking about the better days that would come after all of this. Your strength and love were the best reliever for my anxiety. Everything will be okay, Mom, soon. Lefebvre welcomed us, and his calm and professional presence gave me confidence. Welcome to Paris. We will do everything possible for you, Mrs. Walker. This will only be a memory, and we'll be back at home making plans for the future. When the morning of the procedure arrived, I glanced at Sabrina one final time and found strength in her courageous grin because I knew that no matter what occurred, she would be there as my rock and my light. Her words had filled the hospital room with optimism and love. Lead you through this storm success of the surgery and Ryan's fall following the anxiety and stress of getting ready and traveling to France. The operation went well, and I felt relieved when I woke up in the Paris hospital recovery room. Profound to hear Dr. Lefebvre confirm that everything went according to plan and that the surgery was successful. We anticipate that he will fully recover, and in the upcoming weeks, his health should significantly improve. Dr. Lefebvre smiled reassuringly and said, Despite the postoperative pain, I felt like I had been given a new chance at life. Sabrina was beside me, holding my hand, and her face lit up with a mixture of relief and happiness. Eyes gleaming with anticipation. Much obliged. Sweetheart, you are my little heroine. Without you, I could not have succeeded, I replied, gently holding her hand as I started the healing process. After our breakup, the word about Ryan started to circulate among our mutual acquaintances and on social media. His life had drastically declined because, although he had always enjoyed a wild lifestyle and copious amounts of alcohol, one afternoon as Sabrina and, while taking a leisurely stroll in the hospital gardens, I got a call from a mutual old acquaintance. Mark, hi, and how are you, Anne? I've been informed that your procedure went well. Mark remarked, I'm very happy for you. Regards. Hello, Mark. Yes, thank you very much. All is well? How come? Is there again? I questioned, although I was a little terrified of the response. I wanted to chat to you about something. I'm not sure if you already know, but he's gone through some pretty tough times lately, and I believe the years of drinking have made his health much worse. He's starting to feel the effects of them, which is awful. I don't wish him harm, even if our paths in life have diverged. I replied, experiencing a conflict between melancholy and detachment. Yes, the circumstances are complex. He's been to the hospital a few times for issues related to alcohol. Mark said, It appears like he is alone in this. A lot of his friends have moved away. Having been listening, Sabrina gave me a worried expression and asked, Mom, do you think we should do something? His goal was to help others, thus he asked questions all the time. I tried to teach them about appropriate limits, but Sabrina is complicated. Your father has made his decisions, and although it is sad, we have to respect his path. Our focus should be on your future, and my recovery is best for both of us. Even in trying familial circumstances, Sabrina nodded sympathetically. Circumstances, but even so, she murmured softly, I understand, Mom. I just want everyone to be okay. And Sabrina, that's what makes you unique. But let's be serious now. I smiled and said, we have a lot to be grateful for. Life's teachings became more apparent as we strolled along and my health became better. Even in the face of hardship, love and strength may pave the way for healing. And optimism. Even when making bad decisions can inevitably result in downfall, a life lesson that almost had to be learned the hard way after conquering numerous obstacles and going through such a turbulent time. I was able to reconstruct my life with Sabrina after finding serenity at last. Not only had the successful operation in France given me a second chance at life, but it had also closed a difficult chapter in my life, the one marked by my connection with Ryan, and opened a new one. Viewpoint and a bright future in store. Since I was young, I have always had a special affinity for sketching and painting, and my school notebooks were where I would usually draw and paint. I decided to dedicate myself to a hobby that I had set aside years ago, filled with doodles and sketches, and I had always wanted to work as an illustrator. However, life had other plans for me, so I had to put those goals on hold. Now that I had my beloved daughter's emotional support and stability, I decided it was the ideal time to pick those aspirations back up. Mom, you ought to. One afternoon, when I was looking at some of my recent drawings, Sabrina told me to show my drawings to the world. She said they were amazing. Do you believe they would be liked by someone? Still unsure of my skills, I asked. Naturally, you ought to. Sabrina advised creating an online account and sharing her creations, as you never know who might see them. To my astonishment, I started distributing my illustrations on a well-known platform for artists after ardently creating a profile there as per her advice. Before long, I was receiving comments and compliments from individuals all around the world on my work. Everybody. The encouraging remark gave me the motivation I needed to keep going. Sabrina, however, was succeeding academically along her own path thanks to her brilliance. Commitment. She distinguished herself from her peers, and her teachers often remarked to me on her deep comprehension and her interest-satiated. Mrs. Sabrina Walker, she is a very outstanding student. I replied, feeling incredibly proud of my daughter, Sabrina, because in addition to doing exceptionally well in school, she had taken a particular interest in extracurricular activities. Her science teacher had told me at a school meeting that she had great potential. Thank you. It makes me very happy to hear that you have always been very curious and dedicated, particularly in the school's technology club, where she studied robotics and programming, fields that appeared to indicate her mother would have a great future. Today in the technology club, where we learned how to control a tiny robot to follow a line on the ground. It was amazing to watch the robot move. One afternoon after school, Sabrina exclaimed, exactly how we scheduled it. Sabrina, it sounds incredible. I adore how you pursue your interests and pick up new skills. I've always told her about her hobbies. Our existence had drastically altered the days. They were jam-packed with educational opportunities and learning projects. Every completed picture and every accomplishment of Sabrina served as a reminder that, in spite of the challenges we had faced in the past, we had managed to succeed together. Now, as we rebuild our lives, we were looking forward to a bright future. This new chapter not only brought me back to my artistic roots, but also strengthened my relationship with my daughter, demonstrating that no matter the adversities, there's always a way to find fresh stability and thrive again. For Sabrina and myself, life had finally fallen into a reassuring quiet after so much upheaval. We had weathered storms, conquered obstacles that looked insurmountable, and were now experiencing a tranquility that we had not known in a long time. Our home was a haven of love and strength, where there was laughter and sharing abound. We told each other daily how much we had accomplished and how far we had come. During a Saturday afternoon, We discussed our dreams and future plans over tea in our newly remodeled living room, which was adorned with some of my illustrations and Sabrina's science projects. Mom, imagine if one day I could design robots that help people in their homes, like one who can keep the grandparents company or help them with difficult tasks, Sabrina said, beaming with excitement. I love that idea, Sabrina. With your talent and dedication, I'm sure you can make it a reality, and who knows, she said. I said, maybe your robots could have artistic qualities, something that makes them special. I've always admired them for their empathy and creativity. That would be amazing. We could combine art and technology, to which she responded with an animated description of what she thought those robots could look like. Our dialogue. The sound of the doorbell interrupted her. The parcel included the supplies Sabrina needed for her upcoming science project, and it was the postman. The excitement of a fresh challenge lighted her face. She cautiously unwrapped the gift and exclaimed, "This is perfect, just what I needed to start my solar energy experiment. It brings me great joy to witness your enthusiasm for your endeavors, Sabrina. It is true that you have inherited a passion for study and exploration." As I observed her methodically arrange her stuff, I informed her, "I am grateful to my mother, who has always encouraged me to pursue my goals and never give up." That evening, as Sabrina worked at her desk, I sat down, and she replied to everything with an embrace that said more than words. The sound of pencils on paper and the sporadic murmur of Sabrina using her computer to research something filled our small home studio, drawing us together despite the fact that we were facing each other. Looking back, I realized how much our relationship had changed as a result of adversity, which had strengthened and deepened our bond. Not only had we survived the difficult times, but we had also learned to. Life had found a new steadiness, one that wasn't without difficulties, but that we now faced with resiliency. And we began to value the small daily successes and the simple moments even more. Our lives were calmer and happier as a result of Sabrina and I learning to support one another at every turn, finding in our partnership a safety net and a drive for every new experience. It was the fruit of our abilities as well as the outcome of putting the past behind us, to adapt and grow together. Our relationship had grown to be our biggest asset, stronger than any external success, a hopeful future that was unquestionably outside of our life, and Sabrina and I had achieved financial and health stability, after which it had become our greatest riches. We had broken free from the shackles of the past, and were looking forward to the future with hope and resolve. We were at a turning point in our lives. Our goal was not to create a life together that was. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and Sabrina and I were in the kitchen making our favorite breakfast, pancakes with honey and fresh fruits. We were full of love, accomplishments, and new experiences, and we were positive that facing and overcoming our obstacles had been the best decision. The room was full of laughter, a sweet reminder of the peace and joy that now reigned in our home. "Mom, do you remember when I attended my first science club? I was so nervous that I almost forgot my presentation at home," said Sabrina. Transferring the blend into the pan. "Yes, I do recall it, but I also recall how masterfully you completed it. As soon as you mentioned your project, I smiled in response because I knew you would have a good future." Scooping pancakes onto plates as we ate breakfast, Sabrina said, "Mom, you were always there to support me, teaching me how to deal with things." I thought back to that day and the pride I had because of you. We had a conversation regarding her future plans. Sabrina was thinking about universities and her love of science. Technology had made her ambition of enrolling in one of the top engineering schools possible. "I'm considering applying to Stanford, where I want to study in biomedical engineering. I picture my mother creating gadgets that would improve people's lives," she said with excitement. "That would be amazing." Sabrina holding I was excited and in awe of the amazing young woman she had become after breakfast. "Your dedication and your heart will make a significant difference in the world," I added. We choose to go to the neighborhood park for the day. When Sabrina was younger, we used to go there frequently because it was a lovely green area. We discussed how our decision to move on from the past and how our lives had improved as we walked. "Mother, consider everything that we have experienced. In some ways, looking back at the past helps me realize how resilient we are. It seems like everything that happened brought us to a better position." Taking my hand, Sabrina murmured, "I totally agree, honey. the trials we faced. They gave us a lot of knowledge about who we are and what matters most in life, I answered. Giving her the go-ahead, we spent the afternoon strolling through the park, reminiscing about the past and making plans for future travels. We discussed going to Europe or Asia to discover new cultures and things to learn. Sabrina was really eager to go, visiting Japan and taking in its state-of-the-art facilities and extensive cultural legacy. That evening, when we got home, we watched from the back porch. The stars provided the ideal setting for me to consider our journey together, Sabrina. Rebuilding our lives with you has been my greatest pleasure during this entire process. Not even the challenging ones would I alter a thing. I felt a great sense of thankfulness for the bond, saying that everyone brought us here, that we both shared, Mom. I wouldn't alter a thing. With a heart full of excitement for everything that is ahead for us, Sabrina replied, resting her head on my shoulder. Adoration and hope whether the future parted us. I knew that Sabrina and I would face it together, fortified by our shared experiences and bound by an unbreakable relationship. If you like this tale, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This other video that plays will most likely make you feel something. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you in the upcoming video.